Let's keep it moving and let's talk about some stuff going on behind the scenes. There's one piece of news that really stuck out when I was doing my research for this, and I know you're going to have a strong opinion. And as if this show hasn't been quote worthy enough, here comes some more for all the news sites. Pat Patterson turned in his resignation in October of '04. Wade Keller would write, Pat Patterson, Vince McMahon's top confidant dating back to the mid '80s expansion of the company, gave his notice last Tuesday. Although the 64-year-old Patterson often spoke of retiring someday soon, that talk grew more serious over the past month or so. The decision was accelerated due to a conflict behind the scenes with Triple H. Patterson, the main booker of the WWF in the early '80s, is credited with having a spectacular mind for laying out epic matches, including some of the best Royal Rumbles and biggest matches involving The Rock, Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, and Ultimate Warrior. His booking philosophy was sometimes criticized for being too juvenile or based on ha-ha humor, as it's referred to within WWE. Recently, McMahon asked Patterson to evaluate the Raw roster, and his conclusion was that Triple H was the problem. He felt that focusing the brand around Triple H wasn't working. Especially troublesome was Hunter's failure to elevate new talents to a main event level. Eugene and Chris Benoit were two examples of wrestlers who didn't end up any hotter after feuding with Hunter than they were before, in part because of how they were discarded after feuding with Hunter. Quote, sure, Hunter does jobs, but he doesn't elevate anyone, says one veteran wrestler. It's good that Pat finally spoke up. Since Patterson did speak up, he found himself in hot water with Triple H, who is as much of an influence over WWE's direction as anyone other than Vince himself. Patterson and Hunter have always had a tense relationship, dating back to Patterson favoring Rock over Hunter, where both were climbing the ranks in the late '90s. Patterson worked closely with The Rock and was seen as quote unquote his guy. Hunter was aware that he was battling for a top position, and he felt Patterson siding with The Rock worked against him. Patterson also wasn't a fan of the way Hunter would politic backstage. He noticed Hunter's frequent nitpicking of Rock's performances in front of others and saw it as counterproductive and petty. They butted heads forever, said one wrestler who knows both well. They got along on the surface, but they always had differences in philosophies. Said another wrestler, Hunter was always so jealous of Rock, so he saw Pat as the enemy. Many suspect Patterson will return. Quote, he'll quit for 6 months, then return. Vince and Pat are too close. I think he'll come back when he thinks he's needed. He just feels jilted right now. Talk to me a little bit about this resignation from Pat in October of '04 and how far off is Keller's report that it's probably because of Triple H.
Well, I think that Pat saw his role diminishing for whatever reasons there may be. I think, when I was reading this, our research material this week to do this show, as I said, I said it too much about having plenty of time on the airplane or the airport to read and research. Pat, I would say this, Pat felt like a little jilted lover. He was joined at the hip with Vince for years and years and years, in pivotal years, not just a year like in 2004. I'm talking about years where your balls are on the line because if we don't do well, we're not going to be in business. That some of those WrestleMania gambles that Vince took, was just immense. And Pat was right there. Pat was a creative genius for a lot of that stuff. Pat did have a propensity for humor. I'm not a big humor guy, and as it relates to wrestling, I think humor should be organic and real and natural. I think that pro wrestling should be more athletically oriented. That's just me. Somebody will say, well, why are you at AEW? Because they pay me a lot of money, and I like the people I work for. And I love wrestling. I love helping these young kids. Are they doing too many flips and flops for my taste? Yeah, they are. Be honest with you, they sure are. But they're weaning themselves off that a little bit because, Conrad, that type of wrestling is not new and fresh anymore. How many times have you seen a 450, a 620, or blah 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 blah? And now it's not new anymore. It's not new. So we got to figure out something else that's going to get the people's attention. It might be a wrestling match. It might be using psychology and grab them by the emotional balls and pull them right along on the story. So I think Pat felt jilted. He wasn't wasn't joined at the hip by Vince. And Hunter wanted to be joined at the hip by Vince, with Vince, I should say. Because he'd grown up in that WWE environment. He saw that Vince was the boss. And look, it worked out pretty well for Hunter. Hunter was right all along. Hey, look, if I play my cards right, I'm going to be in a pretty good spot here. He was right, and there he is. And Patterson resigned because of those hurt feelings. And he knew that Hunter was in a position where he was not going to be supplanted. So Pat decides to take a walk. All of us knew he wouldn't leave him forever. The discussion would have probably been at catering, how long do you think Patterson would be gone? Oh, a month, 2 months, maybe 3, something like that. So I think that Pat's contributions are amazing. He's a brilliant finish guy, as good as I've ever been around, quite frankly. But his propensity when he gets bored is to filter off and become ha-ha, as he called it. He said wrestling has to have ha-ha. Well, I can guarantee you this. When he was working for Roy Shire in San Francisco, when they were selling those Cow Palace shows time and time again, and Pat had a 12 or 13, 14-year run in one territory, it wasn't ha-ha. It was serious shit. And so he knew the serious stuff and how it worked better, but he enjoyed the comedy. That's just his personality. But he and Hunter didn't have different ideas on things in that regard. Pat never came to me and said that Hunter's a shit, blah, 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 or vice versa. But Pat, I think, felt like his feelings got a little bit hurt, feathers ruffled. But as somebody said, as Keller said, they thought it would be a short-term deal, and it was. Pat's still under payroll. He's 80. He was in his mid-60s when he resigned. He's in his 80s now. He's still getting paid. So it was a knee-jerk deal, and we all knew he'd come back, and he did, and where he should be. Pat should be in WWE till he dies.
SaveWithConrad.com.
My name is Doug Gustafson, and we are from Columbus, Ohio. First learned of Conrad through his podcast network. I'm a big 83 Weeks fan. Probably got into a little bit more credit card debt than what we wanted to during the course of the pandemic. We wanted to get rid of some of that. My wife and I had luckily bought the house many years ago and had quite a bit of equity built up in it. We are looking to actually redo our bathroom, things around the house that we wanted to do with the other equity that we have left over. We've been talking about refinancing forever, and I finally just took the plunge and called the number, got a hold of him, and from start to finish, it was just fantastic. I had Diane within the day. The communication with her was fantastic. The process moved quicker than I could have ever hoped. My name's Doug Gustafson from Columbus, Ohio. I ended up saving $800 a month with Save with Conrad, and am able to also update our bathroom.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender.
SaveWithConrad.com.